Hi, I'm Paul Guppy. I'm Vice President for the Washington Policy Center, and this is our monthly update about what's going on at the Policy Center and a quick overview of some of the hot issues that we're covering, and then I'll be touching on our upcoming events that we have in the next few months. So first of all, Todd Myers, in his usual dogged way, has been right on top of the implementation of Governor Inslee's carbon tax. It's a radical, expensive tax that was enacted last year and went into effect this year. And what Todd has been doing is following the numbers to see how that's actually rolling out and affecting everybody in our state. And the answer is it's affecting us a lot. You've probably noticed it yourself. The governor has denied that this tax would have major impact. That's turning out to be not true. The governor also said that it would impact, quote, pennies on the cost of a gallon of gas. Also not true. Todd's numbers show that it's more like 46 cents a gallon is being added to the cost of gas, which, congratulations, we now have the highest gas prices in America. So just as the summer travel season started, the governor's policies have imposed even more cost on the residents of Washington state, which in effect is cutting everyone's take-home pay. It's impoverishing us in the sense of reducing the amount of money that's available for ourselves. Also, Todd has showed that the science indicates that this policy, while imposing a lot of pain on the people of Washington state, will have absolutely no impact on overall carbon emissions, global impact on the climate. It is a small, if any, impact on the planet, but it's a major political symbolic move for the governor. And we see that for ideological purposes, he is pushing this very hard. We're going to continue to follow the numbers. The next thing that Todd posted on our blog and announced is his numbers showing that the State Utility Commission has instructed all utilities across the state to not tell their customers what the cost of the carbon tax is. So first of all, this is a restriction in free speech. So if a utility company wants to inform you about the cost of the natural gas or other utility that you're buying, we think they should have the freedom to say so, number one. Number two, we think that it's consumer honesty, that people should be informed about what is the cost of their bill. You know, I looked at my bills and it's very complicated and there are lots of added taxes and charges. The Utilities Commission has instructed utilities across the state to not tell consumers the cost of the carbon tax. And when asked for a reason for this, when Todd followed up, the answer he got back was, well, it would just be too confusing for people to understand what it means. We don't want to put a line item in there that would make it confusing. Well, first of all, when I look at my utility bill, it's plenty confusing the way it is. But secondly, it's basically insulting for the governor and the State Utility Commission to tell people you won't understand what's happening with your utility bill. Just pay it and pipe down. We don't want you to be informed. This is a dishonest way to deal with the public because it hides the true cost of what our legislators in Olympia voted for. This was passed almost entirely on Democratic votes. And the whole point of self-governing democracy is to have accountability. The legislature takes action, Democrats vote for a bill, then we all have to live with it. And now we see that a state agency is hiding what the actual impact is. So how can we make informed decisions when it comes to election time? So we're going to continue to push on that. And since the state won't tell us what the cost is, Washington Policy Center is going to be announcing what the cost is and putting that information out for people. Another major study we have coming up is by Pam Lewison, our agriculture expert, and she's joined with the Pacific Research Institute down in California to do a joint study on the impact of California's Proposition 12 on food prices and food security for everyone across our country. And the reason for that is Proposition 12 was passed in California. It sets requirements and added regulations about agricultural production, caring for animals, poultry, dairy, hogs, cattle. These rules are very restrictive. They're far beyond what is required in other agricultural states. The conclusion was, okay, if California wants to have that standard for them, then that's fine, but other states can make other rules. But in this particular case, California said that if other states don't follow their rules, then those agricultural products cannot be sold to California. This case went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court upheld what California did. What our study does, joining with the Pacific Research Institute, is to show what the impact of that decision is. Turns out that just on pork products, that California consumes 13% of the pork products consumed in the country, but it only produces 1%. So that means that this product that is produced, most of it comes from other states, and they have to comply with California's rules. The reason this is a problem, and this has to do with a doctrine called the Dormant Commerce Clause, and again, the courts ruled in California's favor. But our point is, you can't have a national market. You can't have federalist respect for state sovereignty if one huge state is able to leverage and impose its rules on everyone else. And this question goes all the way back to the founding of the Republic. When the Constitution was written, the smaller states said, hey, what is to prevent Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Massachusetts, the largest states at the time, from just simply overruling everyone else? And the answer was the constitutional balances that we have and the respect under a federalist system of each state to set its own rules. Our problem is not only the cost of rising food prices in this particular issue, but also how California is throwing its weight around and imposing its rules on everyone else. Next is a research that Lee Finna has done as the school year is coming up later on in August and September. Once again, there's the pattern of strikes happening across the state. So teacher strikes are illegal under state law. This is routinely ignored by the governor and by other enforcement agencies across the state. We keep hearing nationally that no one is above the law. The law has to apply equally to everybody. That's defending democracy. And then we turn around and teacher unions in Vancouver and Camas public schools have announced that they're going on strike the first day of school. One of Lee's policies as a researcher is she always announces, when talking about a school district, she always reports what the salary is for the superintendent of that district. In Vancouver, the superintendent makes $320,000 a year. The assistant superintendent makes $242,000 a year. Average teacher pay in these districts is $96,000 plus $35,000 in benefits. And as Lee consistently points out, that's for a 10-month work year. So anybody would like to have a job like this where you got paid for being off for 2 months. And that is what the issue is about. So they're going to shut down these schools. Students will be denied access to an education. The strike itself is illegal. So we're finding that not everyone is subject to the same law. And the issue here is whether teacher pay should go from around $100,000 a year to more than that. And we'll continue to track that. And then on the next issue, because we are very strongly opposed to an income tax in Washington state, Chris Corey, our budget expert, is following an appeal that has been applied by our friends at the Freedom Foundation to overturn Washington's excise tax, income tax law that the state Supreme Court upheld. But as the Freedom Foundation points out, if Washington's going to call it an excise tax, then they can't tax transactions that happen in other states. So the State Department of Revenue has instructed all Washington residents that if you meet the income threshold and you conduct a profitable transaction in another state, and the example they give is if you inherit a coin collection and you take the coin collection to Las Vegas and sell it, you have to report that capital gain profits to the state of Washington and possibly pay taxes on it. So what the Freedom Foundation is pointing out is no state has the right to tax economic activity that happens in another state. Again, a federalism issue that we're trying to defend. So we very much encourage this appeal by the Freedom Foundation. And again, Chris Corey is supporting that and is tracking how this case will come out. The next step is whether the Supreme Court will take the appeal or not. And we're waiting for that decision. And then lastly, Charles Prestrud, our transportation expert rather, has been following what's been going on with the state ferry system. It's an aging fleet. Our state ferries need to be replaced. This problem has been going on for years. Again, Charles is timing this with the summer travel period, just at the time when people need to use the state ferries to travel across Puget Sound. As advocates continue to point out, the state ferries are part of the state highway system, which is true. It interconnects everything. But Charles notes that a 2018 executive order by Jay Inslee says that all new state ferries must be carbon free. They're not allowed to use diesel technology or ordinary marine propulsion that has worked so well for decades on new ferries. What this has done has delayed the construction of any new ferries. So the state is stuck with its current fleet. Charles' estimate shows that if this executive order had not gone into place, we would have 2 brand new ferries operating on Puget Sound right now. So we are creating accountability by showing that if bad decisions had not been made a few years ago, the public would have better service today when it comes to operating the state ferries. So that's an update on the issues we're working on. We're very excited about our annual dinners that are coming up. The next one is in Spokane at the Davenport Grand Hotel on Friday, September 15th. We encourage everyone in Eastern Washington to attend. It's really going to be a fun event. A lot of people, our supporters, tell us that they go to Spokane and they make a weekend of it. They attend our dinner and then stay overnight, stay for the weekend, go shopping. But it really is a high energy and a very fun event. A lot of social interaction goes on. And then in October, on Friday, October 13th, we have our dinner in Bellevue. We have Sebastian Gorka is going to be our speaker, and I'm excited because Bari Weiss is also going to be speaking. And the reason she's interesting is that she is very much on the left. She was a columnist for the New York Times, and she got fired for expressing her opinion. So Bari Weiss has become a strong advocate for freedom of speech, freedom of thought, freedom of expression. And even though we may not agree with her on some policy issues, she has become a champion for exactly the thing that Washington Policy Center stands for: the ability to have access to information, to debate ideas, and most importantly, to form your own thoughts and opinions about what's happening. So I'm excited to hear what she has to say. And with that, I will wrap up, and I will be back next month with another update. Thanks.